we fixing to see a President Kamala Harris? We're going to talk about a story that just broke from her campaign and also from her former communications specialist. What are they actually doing at the White House? What's going to happen in D.C. previous to Trump's inauguration? We're going to discuss that. Also, we're going to talk about FEMA. There's something happening in Michigan, and it's very vague, but I think we need to figure out what is taking place. We're going to talk about something that they're doing in Michigan, and I think if you're from Michigan, I hope that you'll reach out and tell me what you think they're doing in some of these counties. We're going to talk about who he appointed to be over the border. He appointed the border czar and the person over the border before he even appointed some of the main parts of the cabinet. That shows what his goal is. The Senate won based on Trump. They have a great movement happening. However, they were trying to do a secret ballot that got exposed. The truth is, we need good leadership in the Senate. McConnell, on his way out, is trying to pull a fast one. We're going to discuss that today, and hopefully by the time this video publishes, there's a better outcome than one that started off this morning. Let's talk about these things today, and there's good things happening. However, we have to be very cautious and optimistic, but make sure we're paying attention and don't put our head in the sand. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, thank you for being here, but please subscribe. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up. It means the world to us, and we hope that we can give good information each and every day, and hopefully it will make you think and be wise and also have a common sense approach as you try to raise your family in this crazy world that we live in. Now let's talk about these stories. First and foremost, Kamala Harris. Now you saw her playing a game with some kids the other day, drinking a glass of wine, and you could tell she's really glad this is over. This was way too big for her. Actually, VP is way too big for her. But did you hear that someone in her administration, in her communications department, like her director, came and said something yesterday? He said, I believe that Joe Biden should resign and make Kamala Harris the president. Now, here's a problem. Here's a few things to think about. Let's start there first. This lady just got beat in a landslide. Not only that, we've known of the incompetence of Joe Biden. The poor man couldn't walk on sand yesterday. If you haven't seen that video, you need to go back and see him walking on sand. No one's there to help him. It's an embarrassment. But what would be the reason to make her president? Just to say that she was the president of the United States and so she'd be the first female president, when really all it is just transitional awareness right now. Yes, there's a lot going on, and yes, there's still a country to run, but to be honest with you, it really hasn't ran with a leader in the last 3.5, 4 years. Biden at the helm. It's actually been the bureaucracy. So why would they want her to be in power? Is there something underneath this? And to be honest with you, why would Biden give it up? I mean, again, I think that you saw he was pretty excited when he made the announcement that he talked to Trump. Also, I thought it was kind of funny that Jill wore straight up red when she was voting. I think those were both signs that they were very disgruntled with the Democratic Party and also with Kamala and Obama. Another thing is, Obama hadn't talked to Kamala at all. Kamala hadn't talked to Obama. Why are they trying to all of a sudden throw her in to be a president for 50, 60 days? Is it because, like we talked about yesterday, that they're trying to do some more judicial appointments before Trump goes into office? They can do it, and they have the Senate to do it. Now that the Senate is going to be lost to them, what are they trying to pull? We need to be very cautious and very aware of what goes on. I don't believe they're going to just take this presidency line down. I told you that before. Now, while we're on the subject of the Senate, we're going to talk about how these Republicans are letting us down already. Trump came out in support of Rick Scott. Now, again, as I told you yesterday or the day before, I'm not the absolute biggest Rick Scott fan. I think he is the best of the ones they're putting up. I would have rather seen Rand Paul or Mike Lee. But the sad thing is this. They're your leadership. They're the ones that we elect, and they want to do a secret ballot to hide their vote from you. Now that is terrible. And you know what's so crazy? Rick Scott was third. Thune and Cornyn started winning out. You know why? Because they're a deep establishment. The longer these people are in Washington, the more deep in the bureaucracy and their narcissism and their selfish antics, the more they become almost an enemy to the people. Now all of a sudden, Benny Johnson and several more exposed this list. And then you started seeing people with activists, people like us calling our senators, calling and emailing and texting our senators. You know what? It started making a difference. Now, will Rick Scott win out? I don't know, but you see J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, and of course Donald Trump coming out in support of Scott. You're starting to see people be swayed. You're starting to see the people who are not, like for instance, my 2 senators from Mississippi, they're going for 2 establishment hacks. If they supported Trump, they would support Rick Scott. But no, it's all about the conniving and underhandedness of Washington. The longer these people are in Washington, that's why you need term limits. The longer these people are in Washington, the more corrupt they get. Ted Cruz won based on the fact that really the voter turnout and really the benefits of what Trump gave him. But you know what? He wasn't supporting Rick Scott. Now he may switch his vote. That's what Rubio did, and that's what Katie Britt, the other senator, did. You're starting to see some of them have pressure. Keep putting that pressure on them. Because if you don't, these sleazy rhinos will still lead. McConnell pulled this shenanigans trying to get his 2 people so he could still be the puppeteer, the one over this. Thune and Cornyn are jokes when it comes to conservatism. Rick Scott is a whole lot better than them. We need to make sure that he gets into power. Not only that, because Trump is the one pushing him, J.D. Vance is the one pushing him, the MAGA movement is pushing him, it will help him be more aware of what the people of America want, not the establishment like Cornyn and Thune. Secret ballots have no place for people who are elected to represent us. You wouldn't have known who they voted for. You wouldn't have known how sleazy your senator is if it wasn't for this list. Call your Senate right now and tell them what you want. You want someone like a Rick Scott, someone who is wanting to see the movement of Trump go further. Now again, Rick Scott is not the answer compared to someone like a Rand Paul or Mike Lee, but he is the best of these 3, and to be honest with you, I believe will help push forth the initiatives that Trump is wanting to pass to make America great again. Dive into this FEMA situation. And if you're from Michigan or these areas around it, I want to know your thoughts, and also, have you heard anything about this? I'm going to read this to you. I got several emails on this story, and I went back and tried to do as much research as I can, and there's not a lot of research on it. So that's why I'm putting it out there, because I want you to dive a little deeper. If you're from these areas, find out what they're doing up there. It could be very innocent. So I want to specify, I know nothing about this, but I want to know your thoughts on this matter, because what we're starting to see is something that you should keep your head on a swivel probably in Michigan. Listen to this. FEMA is staging 350 plus semi-trucks full of unknown equipment in preparation for a quote-unquote, listen to this, a quote-unquote emergency situation in these specific counties in Michigan: Eaton, Ingram, Iona, Kent, Livingston, Macomb. Now, is there anything bad happening? It could be just simply food for a food bank. I hope that's what it is. But tell me why FEMA's putting all these on an old former military air base. It's decommissioned, and now they're unloading all these semi trucks up there. Is there a reason why? And again, why in Michigan? Why are they staging these trucks there? Is there something that we're looking at that could be dangerous? Is there something to worry about for the northern part of the United States? Is there something to worry about with something happening in another part of the United States where everybody has to migrate that way? I think there should be some answers from this information. This is not like just 3 or 4 trucks. 350 trucks loaded with goods that Federal Emergency Management is parking at an old military base. Now, this is not North Carolina. This is not Florida. This is not Hawaii. Those places should be taken care of. It's not even the fires over on the West Coast. It's in Michigan. Something's a little bizarre happening there, and I think there needs to be more attention brought to it, and I'd love to hear what it is. One thing I want from this administration, I think Trump is trying to bring that back, is I want clarity. Now, it's not for us to know some of the intelligence of major, some bad players in the world, and we need to keep some of those secrets secret. Understandable. That's why those people are in leadership, and that's why we want the trusted people in leadership. But some stuff like this hidden ballot with the Senate, like these trucks up in Michigan, there needs to be a little bit more clarity for the American people. Remember, Washington is supposed to work for the Americans, the people who vote, not to be that we're servants of them. They're servants of us. They're the public servant of us. So why can we not know some of these things? I think that the hiding and the secretive ways of the government needs to be exposed. And I'm glad Trump's trying to do that. Trump came out with some huge things this week. Holman is back over the border. Now, he actually put this guy over the border before some of the cabinet positions has been nailed in, because this guy has been a staunch believer in deportation and also closing the border off. This is the kind of leadership that we wanted. Now, if all of a sudden he didn't put anybody over the border and he just kept saying that he was going to build a border wall and didn't put anybody serious over it, then you would start doubting what he told us. You'd start doubting the political rhetoric. But no, he put the guy who said, I'm willing to deport families, I'm willing to close the border no matter what the cost is. That's the kind of leadership we need, that they're not going to back down from something that they've believed in. Tom Homan has not stopped pushing this narrative, and I'm glad that he's back on Trump's team. Something else is happening. Some of these bureaucrats that's been in Washington way too long, you're starting to see them quote-unquote retire. I think what you're going to do is see a mass exodus of all these bureaucrats that tend to push a bad narrative and tend to push away from the American people and not support like true American values. I think you're going to start seeing them leave and retire. You saw that, of course, with Fauci, but listen to what else. Director Wray, he's set to retire before Trump takes office because he knows he'd be fired. I love seeing the fact that the scary part of Trump coming in is that he's willing to get rid of all the fluff that's in Washington. He came back and said he's already going to destroy it. Just yesterday he posted that he would take out the Department of Education and move them out of Washington and completely redo it or get rid of it. He also said he wants these kids to learn education. He wants prayers back in school. He wants to get the bad teachers out to where you can't just have people just work there just because they're public educators. They have to actually teach. If they're not teaching, fire them. That's what we need. And I think that's why you see people like Ray. You see some of these other bureaucrats starting to retire before. There's also word that a lot of the people in the AG's office, some of these bureaucrats has been there that's actually going against the American people, that's actually caused the problems with all these federal agents and the attorneys that's causing all these issues. A lot of them are set to retire too. I wonder why, because I think everyone knows this DOJ is way too big, way too inflated, and has way too much power, and Trump is willing to get rid of a lot of them. This is the Trump effect that I hope we can see. There also was a comment made that there's been over $60 to $70 billion added to the economy just in the last few days through either Bitcoin or through the stock market. Now, I told you before, I honestly believe we're going to see a market correction. I think we're on a very bad trajectory. I hope that Trump can course correct it enough to make the correction make the correction a lot easier to handle. I love the fact that Bitcoin and crypto is going up. I'm not a big Bitcoiner or crypto, but if you're investing in that, just be careful, be conscientious, because a lot of that's going up with speculation. Same with stock market. I'm glad that we're gaining money. I'm glad to see the dollar up, but be very careful of the fact that there still is a problem with our debt. There still is a problem of we need to handle this financial crisis in America. There still is a problem that people need more money and less inflation. The Fed chairman came out the other day and said, Trump can't fire me. If we have an organization that our president cannot oversee and cannot fire the leadership of, that organization needs to cease to exist. Ron Paul said it best, get rid of the Fed, end them. If Trump cannot allow the Fed to be changed, then we don't need the Fed. What has the Fed actually done for us? So when Trump gets into Washington, I hope he runs most of these people out of Washington. Because if we ever want to see America get back to greatness, no more secret ballots. Bring Rick Scott in. No more of the deep state trying to take over the Trump cabinet. No more of the people like Bill Gates now is saying he wants to work with Trump. What? This is the kind of people that wants to stick their nose in something and try to set their agendas versus what America really wants. When Trump gets to Washington, I hope that he runs the Fed out, Department of Education out, EPA out. He's already said he's pulling out of the Paris Accords, this climate trash that's costing us a ton of money. This is what real leadership looks like. Legacy and saying, you know what, I don't really care. What you think The American people elected me, and we're going to get rid of some of this bureaucratic way and this deep state established garbage. And that's what I like to see. Trump is starting on good measures. He's got Stefanik looking at the UN. Vivek is on the short list for Secretary of State. Big tides are turning in the Senate, and the dollar is up. Things are going well. He spoke to Putin about a peace deal, so I'm anxious to see what's going to happen in the coming few days with some of these wars, some of these threats. Are we going to see these theaters starting to be closed down when it comes to these threats of conflict across the world? This may be exactly what we need. But be careful. Remember, there's someone saying Kamala should be president and become the true 47 before Trump takes presidency in January. What do they have up their sleeve? Don't dismiss the fact that this party is a corrupt party, and the deep state is a very corrupted place when it comes to Washington. They have a lot of cards up their sleeve, and I hope Trump is ready for them. Guys, let me know your thoughts on these stories. We need to know more about FEMA. We need to know more about this Kamala presidency stuff. And we need to have the Senate know, and we need to know what our Senate is voting for, not secret ballots. Mitch McConnell needs to get out of Washington. And so does a lot of these other people that's been in Washington too long. Rick Scott did come out and say that he was looking at leadership terms to where we could get term limits on that. Also, Trump's come out and said we need term limits for Congress, just like we do for the presidency, governors, and all that. So there is a tide turning, and I hope we're just ready along for the ride. It may be rough, maybe some hills and valleys, but I think if we have a great leadership, and he puts the people like the RFKs and the Viveks around him, and Elon Musk, then good things can happen. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless.
Yeah.